Welcome to the historic port of Dover. It was in 1606 that King James I granted Dover its royal charter, but the port has existed for hundreds of years and even goes back as far as Roman times. In this film, we hope to celebrate its 400 years of royal charter by capturing all the action that a major port brings, both at sea and on the shore. Significant volumes of both passenger and freight vehicles can be seen entering and leaving the port on a daily basis. Dover is the closest point to continental Europe, and with around 15 million passengers sailing to the continent annually, it's no wonder the port is the world's busiest ferry terminal. For the car ferry enthusiast and travellers alike, we shall endeavour to bring to you an incredible inside look into 21st century ferry operations. Dover is also the location for the growing cruise line industry, with over 100 cruise ships visiting the dedicated cruise terminals annually. With the port's steady increase in freight and passenger numbers, it has recently been announced by the port authorities that ambitious plans for the redevelopment in the Western Docks area could see the construction of 4 new ferry berths, indicating its interest in the expansion of the port. Fine views of the eastern and western docks can clearly be seen from Channel View Road. It's also the location of P&O's cross-channel ferry operations. From the office windows, employees have a superb and commanding view of the port below. Dover Marina provides an excellent setting for the long-term or short-term berthing of leisure craft and yachts. For those of you interested in the wide variety of smaller leisure craft, the 2 marinas, the Wellington Dock and the Granville Dock, both have scenic berthing areas. The marina has over 100 secure visitor berths in superb surroundings. For the photographer or casual onlooker, it can be a great way to spend a pleasant afternoon just watching the many varieties of sailing craft to be seen sailing in and out of the marina. Today we see Wellington Dock bathed in warm summer sunshine and with quite an array of leisure craft to be seen. An excellent way to see the harbour is to take a 40-minute boat trip with the White Cliffs Boat Tours on board the 70-seater passenger vessel, the Southern Queen. It is an highly recommended tour, taking in such sights as the famous White Cliffs of Dover and of course the ferry ship movements at the port. Almost all of the major seaports in the UK have a lifeboat station, and Dover is no exception. Dover has had a station here as far back as 1837, but it was in 1855 that the operating and running of the station was taken over by those brave volunteers of the Royal Navy Lifeboat Institution. The Tug Haven at Dover has 2 vessels, providing a service to both freight and passenger ships needing assistance in entering or departing the port. Note also David Church, a port dredger, crabbing its way to the exit, ready for some work in the harbour basin. A short walk from the Tug Haven will bring you to the Prince of Wales Pier, which was opened in 1902, and if you're thirsty after your walk, maybe a bite to eat and a drink in the relaxing Lighthouse Cafe. This delightful location will give you an ideal vantage point to see both the ferry movements and, if you're lucky, a cruise ship berthed at the cruise terminal. This area will be looked at in detail later. Meanwhile, the Fred Olsen cruise ship, the Black Watch, quietly sits at her berth before her departure for Southampton. The Hoverspeed Company was formed in 1981 by the merger of Seaspeed and Hoverloyd. They operated the Dover-Calais cross-channel ferry. But in the year 2000, Hoverspeed announced that they would be closing the service between Dover and Calais. Thus, the last Hovercraft service ended and saw its final service on the 1st of October of 2000. The Hovercrafts were replaced by Sea Cats and Super Sea Cats. Before the 1970s, the hoverport was located in the Eastern Docks, as seen in this evocative photo taken in 1969. The hoverport now awaits its future. Plans are afoot to construct 4 new ferry berths here. Only time will tell. In the meantime, let us take a look at the last cross-channel service by Hovercraft with no less than the Princess Margaret as she powers up the ramp for the final time. The cruise ship terminals at the port of Dover are in the Western Docks area and are the second largest in the UK. And in 2006, approximately 190,000 passengers travelling with no less than 37 different cruise companies passed through the terminals. It's the ideal port for UK embarkation to such destinations as the Baltics and the beautiful Norwegian fjords. From the Admiralty Pier, we see Fred Olsen's 28,670-ton Black Watch gracefully depart the berth at Terminal 1 and sets a course for Southampton after a long voyage from the Baltics. From there, the ship will set sail for the wonderful Atlantic coastline of Europe, heading south for Gibraltar. Whilst on the pier, take a look at the lighthouses from here. Some good photos can be taken, but please remember not to get in the way of the fishermen. It's 06:30 on a surprisingly warm October morning, and we are here at Cruise Terminal 1 to observe another one of Fred Olsen's fine fleet of cruise ships. This time it's Boudicca. The ship's staff are already making preparations to greet the passengers for their onboard breakfast before departing the ship. During the summer months, Fred Olsen Cruise Lines departs from Dover to many European destinations and indeed hundreds of ports around the world. Fred Olsen's fleet is often affectionately called the Famous Five, with its fleet of modern and classic ships. Let us now take a closer look as she prepares to get underway. The tugboat Dauntless is on station and prepares to give assistance if needed. So is the Harbour control craft. Dockside personnel take every care in making sure that the departure is smooth and safe going. As her 28,388 tons fills the frame, the name Boudicca reminds us of the mythical legends of history and the strength of the Iceni Queen, of which she is named after. Various buildings within the Western Docks area also have a fascinating history. Let's take a look at just some of them. The impressive facade of this once Victorian hotel dominates the Western Dock area. The hotel was used to break passenger journeys to and from the continent. Note the superb craftsmanship of stone and ironwork on the walkway entrance to the terminal. Typical of Victorian times, they were built to last and to impress those who embarked on the beautiful ships of the period. No less impressive is the entrance to the former Marine Railway Station, now the #1 cruise terminal boarding facility. Again, note the elegant Victorian ornate ironwork made to impress passengers of the period on their arrival by train to the port. The station was restored to its former glory and converted in 1994-96 to cruise ship embarkation standard. I think you'll agree that a good job was well done. Two beautifully made war memorials exist here, commemorating men of the East Chatham Railway who fought and died for their country in the Great War of 1914-1918. This port certainly played an important logistical part in both World Wars. This bronze figurehead was salvaged from a previous Fred Olsen passenger vessel, which was destroyed in a German air attack in 1942. Let's head back to the Prince of Wales Pier for a spot of ship spotting. Diana is a delightful little Dover Harbour board workboat. Her main purpose today is underwater surveying using sonar. The yellow with the black circle flag indicates I am directing my course to port. P&O Ferries is one of the largest operators of cross-channel ferries in the UK and a well-known and trusted brand with years of seagoing experience. The company has a fleet of 32 ships, 6 of which are operating as ferries on the Dover-Calais route. And with quick turnaround times at the port, it won't be long before you see your next departing ferry. Other ferry operators at Dover are Sea France, with up to 30 daily crossings and a journey time of 75 minutes. Here we see Sea France's Rodin arriving at the port after its channel crossing. And here we see P&O's freight-only vessel, the European Seaway, again operating the Dover-Calais route. Just look at the Pride of Canterbury as she swings her stern around and readies herself for the docking procedure. The third company to grace the docks at Dover is NORFOLK Line, and here we see Mayhurst Delft entering the port ready for her berthing procedure. We shall see more of NORFOLK Line later, but now let's take a look at Dover's promenade. Great for taking that break, relaxing and sitting on the many benches, you can still get a good view of the port and its shipping traffic. Once a popular place for holidaymakers in the 1890s, there was once a Victorian pier here, but it became dilapidated and was demolished in 1927. Carrying on the tributes to both world wars, monuments can be seen along the promenade. From high above the cliffs in 1968, the port was undergoing land reclamation, and in the foreground can be seen the construction of a ramp for the use of hovercrafts. You can really appreciate the size of the port from here. Before the infilling of this particular area in 1988, known as the Camber, The submarine pens of World War II were a notable landmark for years and were used to house such craft as motor torpedo boats and other smaller craft until they were swallowed up in the land reclamation of 1988. Freight traffic at the port is enormous and has grown over the years. The port is well equipped to deal with all manner of freight, large and small, and a good road transportation network enables all the traffic, including cars, to move freely. On a nice day like today, and with a good pair of binoculars, it is said that you can see the clock tower in Calais. It is a great place to watch the ships arriving and departing. Let's just study and enjoy these remarkable scenes of ships coming and going from the port. Speed ferries operate these very rakish catamarans and are very fast, making the crossing to Boulogne in just 50 minutes. For many years, people have enjoyed the calm and relaxed atmosphere of watching ships from the famous White Cliffs. This vessel is known as an emergency towing vehicle, or ETV for short. They are purpose-built offshore tugs, and this one, Anglian Monarch, is on station in the Dover Straits. Whether you plan to do some ship spotting or to cross the Channel to France, there is no better accommodation before your journey than the Victoria Guest House, a warm and pleasant atmosphere with good food and beautiful rooms at affordable prices. So go on, give them a call. Let's take that trip to Calais and take in some of the ship movements within that port. We are 21 miles from the port of Calais and it's a force 9 gale with winds whipping up the sea in the open channel. We leave berth 9 aboard P&O's Pride of Kent, a ferry vessel weighing in at some 30,635 gross tons. Better known as the Kent, she is the flagship of the P&O Dover Calais fleet. The port of Calais is a major European commercial seaport, and it's the principal ferry crossing point between the UK and France. The Pride of Canterbury sits at her berth ready for departure, while C. Francis Berlioz discharges her cargo of vehicles. We are now located on Calais seafront, giving us a splendid view of the harbour entrance. You are much closer to the action here than Dover, making it ideal for close observations. The Pride of Kent looks great as she dwarfs the lighthouse. It is a real good location this, and only takes about 15 minutes drive from the port. It's the turn of the Pride of Dover to make her exit now, as she reverses her 26,433 gross tons into the Channel waters, her captain making it look all so easy. C. Francis Renoir prepares her forward opening bow doors, ready for discharge of her freight vehicles and motorcars. As we prepare for our departure from Calais, we observed the Pride of Kent as she enters the harbour. For the mariners of old, the white cliffs of Dover for hundreds of years have shone like a beacon, bringing them safely to port and home. We are all aware of the importance of air traffic controllers, but spare a thought for the personnel of the Dover Harbour Board Control Centre. 2 officers work a 12-hour watch, and on duty today are Mr. Andy Whittam and Mr. Jim Pascal. All the movements in and out of the harbour are controlled by these 2 officers. Overseeing the many shipping movements in the channel is the CNIS, the Channel Navigation Information Service. This facility is located on Langan Cliffs and is responsible for the UK shipping through the Dover Straits. The shipping movements in and out of Dover in the busy season, which starts at Easter, consists of 80 ferry movements during the day and 60 movements during the night. Add also the 100 or so cruise liners that visit the port, along with the numerous smaller vessels visiting the marina, you can then really begin to appreciate the amount of work these officers have to deal with. Recognising the dangers of shipping movements in the Dover Straits, the channel has a motorway system, which was introduced by the International Maritime Organisation in 1977 after 3 ships collided. There is a central reservation where no commercial shipping is allowed, the only exception being for ferry vessels that must cross all shipping in the channel at right angles. This gives oncoming shipping the widest silhouette of the ferry. The Dover Control Centre has jurisdiction up to 1 mile from the harbour entrance. On an average watch, shipping movements in the channel amount to approximately 300 ships, excluding ferries, during a 12-hour watch. After recently being overhauled, the Berlioz looks splendid as she leaves the port for Calais. She weighs in at 33,796 gross tons and was built in 2004. Let's now capture the atmosphere of these massive moving ships as they leave and enter this great port. A beautiful look at the Pride of Canterbury now as she gracefully enters her home port. The Pride of Dover was launched in 1986 and was delivered to Townsend Torrison in 1987. It was later that year registered to P&O Ferries Limited, Dover, England. She weighs in at 26,433 gross tons. Other visitors to the port include this ship, the Horncliffe. Weighing in at some 12,877 gross tonnes, she is wearing the Del Monte motif on her superstructure, and as the name suggests, today's load contains a shipment of refrigerated pineapples and bananas from the Caribbean. After unloading at the freight terminal, she will head for Antwerp and other coastal ports on the continent before returning to the Caribbean. The company Horn Line has 3 vessels and make at least 3 visits a week to Dover with fresh fruit. She is assisted today by the Dover Harbour Board tugboats Dauntless and Doughty. We conclude our visit to the Harbour Board Control Centre with some wonderful views of the Mayhurst Delft, together with the Pride of Canterbury. Next time you board a ferry, give a thought to the officers of the Dover Harbour Board Control Centre. They are truly in a unique class of their own. They will always ensure you arrive and depart in safety. Equally important to ferry operations are the staff of P&O and the Dover Harbour Board dockside personnel. They orchestrate the many thousands of freight and passenger vehicles that pass through the port 24 hours a day, 364 days of the year. Interestingly, Dover introduced its first regular car ferry service as far back as 1928. On entry to the port, all vehicles are issued with a lane number ticket and will be specific to that type of vehicle, i.e. coaches, cars and trucks. Trucks are not mixed with other vehicles, but are placed and queued opposite main deck ramps. Tourist buses and cars are queued opposite top deck ramps. The loading of vehicles is based on the personal knowledge of the shore loading officers, i.e. when and where to load. As the Pride of Canterbury prepares to depart berth 8, the vessel European Seaway begins to manoeuvre into position for berth 7. This freight-only vessel will unload approximately 104 trucks, and within 45 minutes of the last departing vehicle will be ready to set sail again with a fresh load of commercial vehicles.
Votre attention s'il vous plaît, ceci est le tout dernier appel pour les chauffeurs et passagers automobilistes voyageant avec France pour le prochain départ à destination de Dunkerque. Vous êtes priés de rejoindre vos véhicules pour embarquement immédiat. Ceci
Perhaps one of the most dangerous and demanding job positions held within the port is that of the quayside linesman. They have the tough job of mooring these huge ships safely in all kinds of weather. Let's just watch a while as these linesmen prepare to safely moor up the European seaway. The same procedure will take place at the port side bow of the ship. In all, the ship will be held in the berth at 3 points, forward and aft. With the ship now safely moored, the loading rams are slowly lowered to the ship's rear deck, and the vehicles begin to roll off. Ferry vessels carrying cars and trucks are often referred to as ro-ro vessels. The term means roll on, roll off. This enables vehicles to be driven on at one end, and on arrival at their destination to be driven off at the other end. "45 minutes later, and reloaded with commercial vehicles, the European Seaway prepares to get underway for the port of Calais. Built as a commercial vehicle ferry in 1991, she weighs in at some 22,986 gross tons. She can carry 200 passengers and approximately 124 freight vehicles. Let us now turn our camera to berth 9, where linesmen are preparing to receive the Pride of Dover. As you will see, she will be encountering a brisk easterly wind estimated at around 25 knots, making it just a tad difficult to moor up. One dockside worker jokingly said it may have something to do with the Dover being a little camera shy today. Well, he isn't. Hi, Mum. Berths 8 and 9 have 3 large parallel motion fenders, 2 of which can be seen in this shot, the other being in place at the berthing face. These fenders are capable of absorbing the enormous berthing loads of modern day ferries. There are also a further 52 motion side fenders that form the side of the dock face. Interestingly, berths 8 and 9 are new and were built between 2003 and 2004. With the ship safely moored, the vehicles can leave to carry on their onward journeys. Approximately 45 minutes later, and the Dover takes on its next load of passengers and vehicles. While Sea France's freight-only vessel Manet prepares to get underway, we focus our attention on the arrival of the Pride of Kent, who will manoeuvre and moor up at berth 8. It is now the turn of the Pride of Dover to get underway. As you can see, it is a very intensive operation moving these big ships, and scenes such as these are rarely seen at this angle by the travelling public. The Pride of Kent can accommodate 2,000 passengers, 550 cars or 115 freight vehicles. In these views you can clearly see the power-operated sternline winches together with the operator working the control lever. Like the dockside linesman, the ship's deckhands must work as a team to safely bring the ship into berth. Note the pedestrian footbridge being lowered. Foot passengers disembarking will then be taken by a fleet of dedicated P&R buses to passport control and finally to the terminal building for their onward journeys. As mentioned earlier, the port gets extremely busy, especially during the holiday season. So let us now take our final look at dockside operations as the Pride of Canterbury begins her berthing procedure. With the kind approval from P&R Ferries Limited, we are preparing for a crossing with the difference. Let us take another trip to Calais, only this time we shall see things from a different perspective and from a different angle. We are on board P&O's ferry, the Pride of Canterbury, and we start our tour of the Canterbury in the delightful and relaxing surroundings of the Horizon Family Lounge together with the Harbour Coffee Company. If you want high quality waiter-waitress service, then there is no better than the Langan's a la carte restaurant with wonderful views of the Dover Straits. The services on board ship are, as you would expect, excellent and will suit all kinds of taste for both young and old. Amongst the facilities on board are a computer games arcade for the children and an offshore shop for the adults, selling all kinds of quality products from magazines to wines and spirits. P&O staff are amongst the most professional both within the ferry industry and indeed the cruise ship industry. After all, they have been moving people around the globe since 1837. Help with a friendly smile is always on hand at the information desk. What better way to relax and enjoy your crossing than here in the elegant surroundings of the club lounge, offering complimentary champagne, tea, coffee and soft drinks. Just look at those superb panoramic views of the Dover Straits. Visited only by authorised personnel whilst at sea, we were allowed to film vehicles within the car decks. There were approximately 200 vehicles on board, which contained an assortment of freight and private vehicles. Vehicles carrying hazardous materials are loaded last and are positioned at the stern of the ship for safety. The enormous power of the four Sulzer engines produced some 28,400 horsepower, giving us a speed of 21 knots. And as we feel all of that power beneath us, the red ensign reminds us of our nation's great achievements in our maritime history. We are now back in the club lounge to observe our approach to the port of Calais. It is a particularly nice day today and unusually warm for a February. As you can see, the Canterbury's deck crew are getting ready for the docking procedure to begin. Try to imagine the professionalism and the skill of the captain and his crew to be able to be so precise in positioning his ship of 30,000 tons or more into berth 9. The whole ship shudders as the hydraulically operated pitch propeller blades pivot to change the direction of movement. Also, the bow thrusters provide lateral movement to help bring the ship closer or further away from the quayside. French dockside workers now get themselves ready to moor up the Canterbury. Traditionally known as the monkey's fist, which is a rope with a coiled knot at the end, a member of the ship's crew is seen throwing it to shore. With the ship now safely moored, passengers and vehicles will disembark to carry on their journeys, to who knows where. "20 minutes later, and the first of many vehicles, including 37 coaches of school children, returning from their half-term holidays, started to be loaded, plus the many hundreds of passengers ready for their journey to Dover and beyond. A restricted area to passengers, and with exceptional views, we are atop of the ship, or traditionally known to crew members as the Monkey Island. On our port side, we see sister ship the Pride of Burgundy as she heads for Calais. What better way to see our arrival into the port of Dover than here on the ship's bridge? And on duty today are Captain Mike Martin, Chief Officer Crispin Ferrand, and Quartermasters Steve Hayward and Jason Parnham, who both share steerage and lookout duties. For manoeuvring the ship in port, duplicate wing bridge consoles are situated at the extreme port and starboard side of the bridge and are used for close quarter positioning within the port and for berthing up the vessel. With Steve Parnham at the helm, the captain now takes charge of the approach to the harbour. To obviate the need of a pilot, ferry captains are pilot exempt and must pass an initial exam for the ports they are using, i.e. Dover and Calais. At the time of filming, there are plans to test captains on a regular basis within the given period of time. Dover Control decide who is first to cross an imaginary line 3 miles off Point Alpha. It's on a first-come, first-served basis in entering the port, and because of us being put in a holding stack formation, the Canterbury will be using the western entrance to the port. This is only used by ferry ships when a bottleneck occurs. This will involve carefully manoeuvring around a buoy, marking the position of 2 sunken block ships which were placed here during the war years. Interestingly, Captain Mike Martin is the longest serving captain of 30 years, with evolving companies that formed P&O ferries, such as Townsend Torreson and Stena P&O. Captain Martin has been their senior master since 1999. Running commentary on the bridge is for the benefit of the black box recorders fitted to all P&O ferry vessels. This will record any mishaps within the vessel which will be used in any investigations, similar to those used on board airliners. As we begin our swing round manoeuvre to port side, let's take time to reflect on the pride and professionalism shown by all P&O ferry captains and their crews. Simply put, setting a high standard of seamanship.